students, how are you? Students, yesterday I explained the second part of the lesson, and in that part Aram, the narrator of the story, was telling about the honesty of his family. Now I am going to explain the third part of the lesson. Now listen. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, even though I could smell it so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing so exciting, I could not believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad or with me or with any of the other members of our family, asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad could not have bought the horse. And if he could not have bought it, he must have stolen it. And I refused to believe he had stolen it. In these lines, the narrator of the story, Aram, is saying that even though he could see the splendor of the horse, he could smell it, and he could even hear it breathing so exciting. But he could not believe that that horse might belong to his cousin Murad, or it might belong to him or any other member of his family, because they were very poor and they could not have enough money to purchase the horse. And the narrator, his cousin Murad, or any other member of his family even could not dream of horses, because he knew his cousin Murad could not have bought the horse. And if he could not have bought the horse, it means he must have stolen it. But the narrator was sure that Murad could not steal the horse, because every member of his family was honest, and they were famous for their honesty. No member of the Garogulanian family could be a thief, and no member of the Garogulanian family could be a thief. That is why Murad could not steal anything, could not steal a horse. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. Now it is saying he stared at first at his cousin Murad and then at the horse. When he stared at both of them, then he found a sacred peace, pure peace and humor in them, which on one hand, after observing the purity in both of them, in the horse and his cousin Murad, on one hand the narrator was delighted, and on the other hand he was frightened. Murad, I said, in order to assure himself that Murad had not stolen the horse, he asked him where he had stolen that horse. Then Murad ignored his question and said, "Leap out of the window if you want to ride," and advised him to get out of your room. He advised Aram to get out of his room if he wanted to ride. When he said this, it was then Murad Aram was sure that he had stolen the horse. It was true, then he had stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not as I chose. When Murad ignored Aram's question, then Aram was sure that Murad had stolen the horse, and there was no question about it. He and Murad had come to invite the narrator to write or not. It was his choice if he wanted to write or not. Well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else such as money. Aram was interested in riding and he was desirous horse riding. That is why it seemed to him that stealing a horse for a ride could not be called same thing as stealing something else such as money. Because Aram was interested in riding horses, that is why when he saw the splendid horse in front of him, that is why he thought that stealing a horse for a ride could not be called stealing, could not be called same thing as stealing something else such as money. Stealing a money could be called stealing, but stealing a horse for a ride could not be called stealing. He started considering this because he was interested in riding. For all I knew, maybe it was not stealing at all, and he was sure that it could not be called stealing. For stealing a horse for riding purpose could not be called stealing. If you were crazy about horses the way my cousin Murad and I were, it was not stealing. And narrator is saying that if any person is crazy about riding horses the way his cousin Murad and he were, then it could not be called stealing. It would not become stealing until we offered to sell the horse, which of course I knew we would never do. And now, in this way, Aram, the narrator of the story, framed a new definition of stealing. According to the new definition of stealing, means he framed a new definition of stealing according to him, that taking the belongings of others without their permission, without having the intention of selling them in the market, could be called stealing. And taking the belongings of others without their permission, having the intention of selling them in the market, could be called stealing only. But without having the intention of selling them in the market could not be called stealing. He framed this definition because he was interested in horse riding. He was desirous to ride the horse for a long time, and he knew that Murad and Aram would never sell the horse in the market. That is why that could not be called stealing, because they did not have any intention to sell the horse in the market. They only took the horse without the permission of its owner for riding purpose. Now students, I think you will have understood the meaning of this part, and I request you to read and write the explanation which I will provide you in written, and tomorrow I will explain the fourth part of the lesson. Thank you and have a nice day.